All right, y'all, we're going to be learning a mechanical process called completing the square. And completing the square is another helpful tool that can basically help us find the answers to quadratic equations. So I'm going to fill out these notes with you. What are the 3 methods? Nope, I've taught y'all 2 methods for solving, how to solve for x for quadratics. I have taught you grouping, factor by grouping. That's the A, B, C, AC thing, where it has to multiply to AC, add to B, all that stuff. And then I have taught quadratic formula. And I've only taught those 2 things because they're universal. They work every single time versus other issues, other things that don't. Well, grouping doesn't work every single time, but for the problems we give you, they work every single time. Quadratic formula works every single time. So quadratic formula is universal, grouping is pseudo-universal. Okay. Now, completing the square, what's going on here? You're going to have to just be okay with the mechanics for today. The concept will make sense more as we go forward, but today I just want y'all to focus on mechanical skills. So far we've had equations that are ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That's so far what we've been working in. But here's what's going to end up happening. Whenever we're going to be doing this process called completing the square, and again, you're just going to have to go on faith today that it matters. What we want to do is we want to get all our dangling numbers to the right-hand side. So that means our C. We want our C to the right-hand side. And in order to do that, you have to move it by basically adding 20 on both sides. You see how I did that? I just moved it, and now I have a positive 20 on the other side. Again, you're just going to have to be okay with the mechanics today. So now I've rearranged this equation to x squared plus 8x equals 20. Now I can ignore that. Okay. Now I'm going to go over here, and it's going to ask me to label my b. Well, I know my b is 8. And then it's going to say, I want you to perform this operation, which is b over 2 squared. Now again, why does it want that? That will reveal itself in a little bit. But for now, let's just do the mechanics. So when I take 8 divided by 2, I get 4. And then when I square it, I get 16. So there we have it for whatever this term is. Now, there's some neat properties that we can do whenever we're completing the square. And we will be using this because there's another form of the quadratics called the vertex form that this will come in handy for. So what happens next after we've done this rearranging and we've done this like mechanics essentially? Well, this 16 right here, I found this b over 2 squared. I'm going to add it to both sides of the equation. I'm going to add it to both sides of the equation. I can do anything I want to an equation so long as I do it to both sides equally. Here's what ends up happening that's cool. When I factor out this problem right here, when I factor this problem out right here, this is what I end up with. You factor it down, that would be x plus 4, x plus 4. And if you're like, Mister, I don't understand, I am not teaching this again. I am not teaching the ABC, factoring, grouping, whatever else. If you still don't understand how I'm grouping, if you still don't understand how I'm grouping and factoring by grouping, this is the Schoology, this is the date you need to go to figure that out. I am so over teaching this. So trust that when I factor this, I get x plus 4, x plus 4. So now, here's what's neat. Then I can add this up on this side, and I end up with 36 over here. So now, look, I have an x plus 4 times an x plus 4, which means that's a square of itself. So I can rewrite it just like this, x plus 4 equals 36. And it may seem silly right now, and I know it is. I don't need you to be like, I don't understand, whatever. It's okay. Right now what I care about is can you do the mechanics? So with that said, we're going to go ahead and go to the next one and do it together. So problem 2. All right. Remember the first step we have to do on these completing the squares. We want to get our dangling numbers to the other side. So I'm going to do the opposite sign right there. So I have x squared minus 12x. There's nothing there anymore, but because I'm completing the square, I want to add this little space right here for me, so I know I'm going to put something there. And then what is this? 4 minus 15 is equal to negative 11. So we've now set up our first step for completing the square. Now we have to find our b. Our b in this case is equal to negative 12. And then we have to find that weird term, that b over 2 squared, which you'll see this again in the future. And we'll explain it more as we go on. Today is a mechanic day. So now we have to fill that crap in, and we have negative 12 over 2 squared, which is negative 6 squared, which is 36. So now I'm going to end up adding my 36 here, and I'm going to add a 36 here. And there we have it. So that looks pretty cool. I'm glad we have that going on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my right-hand side. My right-hand side, negative 11 plus 36, is equal to 25. And then what I have over here, again, if you were to do the ABC factoring, you'd be able to see this quickly. But just know that this is how it's going to break down. When you see these, it's very simple. You know which one's going to break down because all you have to worry about is basically like what makes, in this case right here, you see that negative 6? Hold on. Sorry, I had to push pause and check something. Yeah, so you see this negative 6 right here? If you're having trouble factoring this, check this negative 6 over here and that little b over 2 thing. That's the number I'm looking for that goes here. So I can put my negative 6 here and my x minus 6 here. And if you were to do all this work, you would basically see that, yes, this right here, x minus 6 times x minus 6, equals this top part right here. They end up being the same exact thing. Now I'm going to rewrite my problem at the very end just like this. X squared equals 25. And that's how we complete the square. All right, now we're going to go ahead and do this again on problem 3. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. First things first, let's get our C moved over. So our C moves over. And we do that by adding the 21 to both sides. We do the opposite sign, right? When we move things, that's like grouping. That's addition and subtraction. So I end up with x squared plus 20x equals 21. Now let's do that weird calculation. We know my b is equal to 20. But it wants us to do that weird b over half squared and whatever else. So in this case, my b over half squared is 20 over 2 squared. 20 divided by 2 is 10, which gives us 10 squared, which then gives us 100. So the two numbers we're interested in are basically the 100 and that 10. So here we go. I found that number. It's real big. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite my equation to make sure I have space for that number, which in this case is adding 100. And then on this side, it's going to be 21 plus that 100. Hopefully you can see that. I'll underline in red on this example. You can see the 100. You can see the 100. You can see the 100 right there. So we add that in there. And now let's go ahead and go to the next step. So here's the fun part. It's going to break down in grouping, right? It's going to be pretty simple. This breaks down with factoring into this. X, you're going to go look at this number here, this 10 squared. When we divide our b by 2, that interior part, that 10, that's the number we're looking for. It's a positive 10 in this case. And then we're going to end up on this side with 121. And then you can rewrite this as x plus 10 squared. And this is going to be a difficult day for those who require the concept. I understand this is going to be a difficult day. I'm interested in mechanics only today. So show me that you can do this mechanical step, and it will make more sense as we go forward studying quadratics. With that said, that's it.